you doing today?
I am marvelous on
Yes.
this sunny day in this rainy world.
Just a moment. We're checking some audios right now just to see. Just a moment. I'm coming in good.
All righty.
Somebody let us know.
Yeah, we're in a sunny day in a rainy world.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Staying dry out here.
Yeah.
The streets are flooding all
Yeah.
around the U.S.
All around.
And in other countries. It's pretty well.
Yes.
Hey, wow. Well, let's see. We got the live stream chat. Look, it's Mario of the Sun.
Hey, Mario.
Welcome, Mario. Lakesh. Just double checking. Oh, we got like 12 people joining in. Okay, people are rolling in. Just double checking. Is the audio coming in? Can you all hear us clearly? We're doing a different arrangement in terms of the mics. We're saying peace, y'all. Hey, Terry, Misha, and Lakesh. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yeah.
So, it seems that our mics are working, everything's groovy, and we'll keep it rolling. So, welcome again, everyone, to the Of The Sun live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about food, DNA, and light body, and the type of nutritional diet for sustaining light. So, this can go in a lot of different directions.
Yes.
We're going to have some fun here, and we encourage people in the chat, if you have questions about things, just let us know. If there are questions related to food, etc., drop a question in the chat. We'll definitely dive into that.
Yeah.
Question in the chat. We'll dive into that. I used to rap in my past life. That record, top fire. Not no more. We're getting from someone saying it's a little bit of an echo. Someone saying audio is good. So we're gonna roll with it. We're gonna roll with it. So with that being said, just a couple of announcements for you all. Right now, we're in the middle of light body movement. We're always in the middle of light body movement. This is ongoing for the remainder of the year until around December. And even once we hit that point, we're going to be adding on a whole nother advanced layer on top of that in terms of directing and working with light. But as we move through these classes, we're articulating and conveying our experience to you all live. Especially people, we know there's some of you who are on the fence, like watching you. I'm thinking about joining the light body, but I don't know. It just sounds good. Sounds good. I'm just going to keep listening to these podcasts. You guys should join in on the fun because we are having some terrific experiences in terms of the actualization of light. And I'm talking literal, like if I direct light into here and I can direct light into that and bring coherency to circumstances and situations, I can direct light into my children and get them to act right. Behave correctly. So practical application, but again, we're going to be talking about food today. So light body movements every first, second, third, and fourth Sunday. It includes a class taught with LaOta and myself, and LaOta is actually teaching 3 times. She does her energy clearing workshop on the second Sunday, and she does her monthly self-healing talk on the last Sunday of the month, which is Water 22. Yeah. Each month she talks about an element, and we kicked off the live stream just shooting the woo, talking about water. She said it's a sunny day in a rainy climate. It's been raining everywhere. The weather broadcast systems are down intentionally. You have any thoughts about this, LaOta?
No.
What's happening with water, and especially with your upcoming talk?
I encourage everyone to get the light so you can get the life, so that you can be the life, so you can stay on this planet during this deluge. It's happening. It's not stopping. It's going to continue, but it doesn't have to happen to you. But if you do nothing, no thing will happen. Doing nothing is not the way.
You better do something.
Joining light body movement will help you gain the necessary light to help you navigate away from places you don't need to be and put into every experience a better outcome. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to witness something or something's not going to happen, but it is the darkness and the anti-life that is encroaching upon our world that we have allowed and permitted. So when we individually stop allowing and permitting levels of anti-life into our experience that don't serve us, it takes us out of harm's way, because we are then in harmony with creation, which is life. Creation is life. So if you're doing things that take you to death, you're not in harmony with creation. It's not even complicated. It's just misunderstood completely. So,
In my mind, I'm thinking, I gotta get in harmony, I gotta get in alignment.
yes.
I don't want to say you all better get in alignment, but if you want to survive and stay on the planet, and especially with being on the right timeline, as they say, it would be best. You know, we understand there's a dimensional shift taking place. I think we spoke about that we were about to talk about it. We held off on that one, but a dimensional shift taking place with the planet.
Right.
You know, it's important that because we're on top of the mother, that we get with it. You know, all the little bacteria better start dimensionally shifting with Mother Earth. So
It's
it makes a lot of sense.
we're lighthearted about it because this is not new. It has been prophesized. It has always been known that the humanity would awaken and throw off that which is enslaving and imprisoning us, which is mostly our own choices and our own lives. And once we do that, we begin to evolve, grow, ascend. So it's not a thing to be afraid of. It's really a decision to make. It's not, you don't need to be afraid. You just have to decide, you know, whether you want to pursue life in a new way with new experiences, or whether you would like to relax and vacate this life, go on a vacation, vacate, and come back another time and try it again. The universe is beneficent. There is no death. There are more opportunities. Me personally, I'm going to take this one. I'm taking this opportunity.
Well, also throughout the years would say, you don't want to come back on the short bus. Get it right.
But everybody's free and nobody's trying to convince you otherwise. We're just letting you know.
Yes.
This is not, we're not trying to convince you or con you or manipulate you into anything. We're like, look, this is where we're going. We invite you to join us. That the evidence is clear. It's clear in Arkansas. It's clear in Texas. It's clear in North Carolina. The evidence is clear all over the country where nighttime, unpredicted flooding is taking place and people's houses are floating away. It does not have to be that way. You can be in accord with your guidance. You can be in alignment with the truth, but it will require, what we're talking about today, levels of purification so you can hear the information. So your bias and your predisposition and your desires don't get in the way of your life. So that's what we're talking about today.
Indeed.
The purification process.
Yeah, so I want to continue to welcome people in. We got a couple more people rolling into the live stream in the chat. We see Russ is with us in the cache.
Hey, Russ.
Stacy. We also got in the cache studio 1 in the house, aka Dancing Lady. Serenia in the cache. Dallas has been saying it's been raining so consistent this summer. So it is such a thing. We know that this is artificial. It's not even real. Even people who aren't fully awake, it's like, something's not right about this. Something's off. What's this blue water on the ground from the rain?
Yeah.
Some wild things happening. But again, may this give us the impetus to elevate ourselves. I was just in a conversation with LaOta the other day about certain things in my experience, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like what I'm seeing with certain people. But then there's also, because the way we operate within all the principles, that I know I can't control this person. So this experience is inspiring me. Let me be greater. Let me raise above. Let me amplify my light. And may these events that we see inspire us to be greater than where we're currently operating. Instead of woe is me, and this, I see that this also plays out in a myriad of different ways. If you're complaining about what's happening with the food, grow your food, go to the farmers markets, shift your behavior where you can stay within a level of power and sovereignty. You got some thoughts on this, LaOta?
Yes, absolutely. It's about the food, but it's also about what you think. And there's so many ways that you can shift. We have done and gone through a variety of different modes of cleaning and clearing ourselves physically, because physical cleaning means something. It can't be ignored because you don't feel like you want to do it. It's like, just because you're sick does not mean you should not go through wellness. Just accepting, well, I'm sick, so I'm gonna do whatever sick people do. You can be what you were once. You can resuscitate, you can call back your health, your beauty, you can call back your purification, you can remember yourself and your innocence. And it's important for us to think that way. Just because we have been contaminated doesn't mean that we cannot relinquish that choice that we made and begin to purify ourselves. And there's so many ways. You don't even have to grow your food. You can know somebody who grows their food. You can support them. You say, would you send me a basket of food every week? I'll give you some money, you give me some food. And that's an equal law and order kind of situation where the law of reciprocity is in effect. You don't have to do it. You don't have to say, oh, no, I don't know what I'm doing. And in the meantime, you can learn if you would like to make sure that you become sovereign and you become the master of your own fate. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, if you know somebody who is growing inside, outside, growing from a ceiling, you can also, what my guidance shared with me years ago was begin with sprouts and microgreens, that we can survive from that. Sprouts can be harvested, grown, and soaked in 3 days. You could grow sprouts while you're walking through the park. You can put them in a plastic bag and a backpack and grow them, soak the seeds, and they'll be ready to eat. That's a 3-day fast. If you have nothing and you got seeds, you can eat in 3 days from your own harvest of alfalfa sprouts. And then that's magical. That's new life. New life has particular qualities that mature life doesn't have. A head of romaine lettuce is wonderful. It's a different thing than a sprout that just grew from the power of the seed. That's the kind of energy you want. Microgreens don't take long to grow. So wherever you are in your matriculation and your bias and your opinion of what can be done, you can do it. And I would get some seeds though. I would have some seeds handy, even if you don't want to do that. If you want to go to the farmer's market, fine. The big box stores cannot be trusted. The
traders, just like Joe. Trader Joe. Joe's a trader.
It's right there in the name.
You were talking about that earlier. I also said, he's a trader. I'm like, you're right. There's so many videos I've seen regarding just very shady practices that they have versus how they present. It's no different than Whole Foods. We know Whole Foods presents in this glamorous way, but almost everything is genetically modified or farm raised, and even their so-called organic products got dyes in it and other weird chemicals, and we got to stop falling for the okie doke. It's right in our face.
So the solution would be to investigate enough what you put in your body that you're not being duped, you're not being bamboozled, that you know what you're eating. And if you grow it and it has your inspiration in it, and a key to the whys would be if you have seeds, make sure that your saliva is in them so that they will be informed with your DNA. So when they grow, they can pull forward the intelligence that exists in creation to help you. And that may be too far for some of you, but that's the way it has always been. The ancients have always done that. You're in Africa, you eat a mango, you eat it, you have the seed, you throw it to the side, and a mango tree grows from it. And now your children can eat from that, and that tree has your DNA and your children's DNA. This is the way life works. It is important to touch those aspects, to walk among the crops, to be outside among the aspects of life so that they can be informed and you can be informed by them. This is something we get away from by moving into urban circumstance in urban areas, but it's ours. It's in our blueprint. We can resuscitate this understanding and give ourselves much better health. So we recommend certain ways of eating, and we'll talk to you a little bit about that today, but where would you like to start, Doris?
Yeah, we're so online. I'm over here like, all right, I'm looking at my notes right now. So just again, for those who are tuning in, we are talking about food, DNA, life body, how we are to eat in order to sustain and activate this life body. And so one of the things I want to kick off with is, and while I'm doing this, I'm charging my laptop up because we got to make sure we stay on here. And so this idea of the biology, re-identifying what the biology is, and it's somewhat like a biocomputer or solar tech, right? Biotechnology. And we got to put the right fuel inside of this, especially in order for us to be able to get the switchboard flipped on and the different energy centers activated and all the different gifts and things that we're looking to tap into. That's really a normal part of the human experience, but we're not there because there is a significant dampening on our overall system and perception of self. So would you kick things off with this idea of the body being somewhat, not somewhat, but the body literally being a form of technology, and how food has not only codes, but it's operating as a source of fuel for life itself?
So there's many levels to this, and for those of you who have been studying esoteric work, we're coming in at the level of where people mostly understand, but there is no limit to where we can go with our understanding and interaction with other aspects of creation. But I'm going to start just for those of you who may have learned more about energy. And I'm going to start with the fact that our bodies are our technology, and we arrived here without the manual. And the way that the intelligence of the technology works allows for us to, at this current time, to be able to be nourished by other aspects of creation that are in our world. And these other aspects of creation are not all equal. So some things are what are in our current experience, we hear people talk about superfoods, but it would be more appropriate to call food either food or to call it magical food. So there are many magical foods that exist that the indigenous have always known about, and that the pharmaceutical companies know about, and that they have already digitized them and patented them. And in their lack of understanding of of where we are, they've captured as much as their digital capacity could capture, which is not everything. And they've separated out the components and said, okay, you're going to take this one component of this one branch or this one leaf or this piece of dandelion, and that has the quality, and we're going to replicate that quality and produce it digitally, and we're going to patent it, and now you can buy it in that one replication. But the intelligence of creation, it's like when a bear eats a piece of salmon in Alaska, he eats the whole salmon. And so he gets the whole thing. When we think that salmon float around in the ocean like fillets, but that's not the case. they're not. So they have other parts. So when we eat something when we separate out pieces, we get distinct aspects that are not necessarily driven through the intelligence of the whole thing. So when you eat a potato, let's take something like a white potato. You eat a white potato, The glycemic index is very high, but it still is nourishing. It is still food and it can be eaten. And when you peel it, you lose something. You lose all the iodine in the peeling, which would grow hair and, does other things in the body that iodine support. But it is, in general, it's not unheard of to eat the peel. But in general, people peel the potato, and so then they lose the other aspect of the potato that would give them nourishment. We don't even recommend white potatoes. We recommend Japanese potatoes. We recommend sweet potatoes. We recommend purple sweet potatoes. We recommend blue potatoes. We recommend things that have the anthocyanins, the aspect of color. And that's the thing I'd like to talk about first, is that when you're in the supermarket, when you're in the farmer's market, when you're walking through the fields, when you're looking at the packages of seeds, choose things that have color. Think about in our world how when you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, the chicken's beige, the mashed potatoes are beige, the coleslaw is mayonnaise beige, the biscuits are beige, and there's no nutrient positive outcome from any of that. But that is, and sometimes they'll put a piece of lettuce or a pickle on the plate to distinguish.
A little splash of
Yeah, to distinguish it.
Soaking in vinegar.
So it's very similar to, like, we look at white rice. Now, we've just recently found out white rice has arsenic in it. And many families have lived on rice for generations here and abroad, but it now has huge amounts of arsenic. But brown rice is even more toxic. So we eat black rice. We eat forbidden rice, yes.
I think it's wild because people usually who aren't as self-conscious, but they're in certain entry levels of, I'm eating brown bread instead of white bread. I'm eating wheat bread, which that's a whole other story. And then brown rice would be a typical alternative for people as a healthy option. They go to Chipotle or, they go to the store and get that brown rice because I'm on a health journey. But it's fascinating to see how what we think is correct is actually
marketing.
Yeah, that part.
It's like canola oil. Well, it's good for you. No.
It's got vegetables on it.
Or corn. We know we can't digest corn.
Yeah.
We know corn is not for humans. We know canola is rapeseed oil, and the birds fall out of the sky dead when they eat it. That they've removed that component and then sold it to us. We know that soybean oil is a phytonutrient and that people who eat it over long terms are interfering with their hormones and their gender. And children raised on soy formula is not in the best interest of the child. But we've been sold this bill of goods and we are committed to it. And we just, even in the face of all the science that dissuades us from it, we're determined to hold our ground. And we can see the illness from the children and the adults.
I got a question for you. Just speak a little bit about how these foods, these specifically processed foods, because I can see processed foods are not just things that are in a box. You mentioned how we remove aspects of the food and take just a component of the food, and so it's the body still registering it as a process, almost a foreign idea. And so would you speak about how this impacts our DNA over time?
It's so funny because, we eat something that has been altered. Remember, all bread products have to go through many steps after they're dead, after they're pulverized, after they're kneaded, after they're injected with other, they go through many steps. And when we eat that, our body does not recognize that. Like, who are you? Who are you and what are you doing here? Why are you in my stomach? What is it that you want me to give you? Because I don't have any of that information anymore. It's been pulverized out of me. Mm. Oh, you put some microbiome in me. Oh, but didn't you cook that out of me when you cooked the bread? Didn't you kill the microbiome that you put in me? So there's all of these kind of things that potato bread. Oh, yeah, that's a,
People like potato bread. Oh, man.
that's a combination, isn't it? Yeah, you know.
Wine rolls.
All of these different kinds of foods, you know, so white potatoes turn directly into sugar when you eat them. And then, so you put it in with flour that's been dead, pulverized, and manipulated many times. Now you've combined two toxins, you know, not to mention the fact that the genetically modified original product doesn't really exist anymore. The original potato doesn't exist, and even in its original state, it was not meant to be a staple for humanity. And then you mix it with a manipulated product like bread, now you've created something more dangerous, and it is processing. Both are, you know, become a processed item. And then the idea of doing anything, the more manipulated a thing is, the further from the truth you are. The more innocent the thing is, the more you get what creation intended. You reach up to a tree in Georgia, it's been in someone's yard, not a commercial farm, and you eat that peach, you're getting closer to the innocence of what that peach was meant to be. Not necessarily 100%, it may have been sprayed, something may have happened, but it's way different than having a can of peaches in heavy syrup. That's a very different experience chemically in the body.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there were a few guidelines, I would say every step that is done to the thing you get that takes it away from its purity is taking away from the life it can give you. Everything that has color is giving you more than the thing that doesn't. So if you're wanting to, we eat black rice because forbidden rice was
Forbidden amongst the peasants.
in fact, it was. That's the truth. But in China, the harvest for the black rice was much smaller than the harvest for the white rice. So it was forbidden for peasants, anything other than the emperors, to eat it because the nutritional profile of the black rice was so dynamic. It's a magical food. It has everything. It was so dynamic that they would be charged if they were caught putting black rice in their mouths because it was only a limited amount and it was for the people who were in power. And so now it's still called forbidden rice, but nobody knows why. So we eat forbidden rice or black rice as an alternate. We have quinoa and black rice. Quinoa comes in many colors. It takes a little longer, but the color itself is the magic.
But isn't the quinoa not like, doesn't it register differently because it's a seed?
Well, everything has its own biochemical signature, but quinoa, the black rice is not a grain. The black rice is a grass, technically.
See, so this is the wild stuff they don't tell you. You're eating grass.
It's technically a grass, and brown rice is technically a grass as well. So even though we commonly refer to it as a grain and we make things out of it, it's really a grass. But white rice and brown rice have attributes that make it similar to a grain. And I would recommend people read things like Brain Grain or Wheat Belly that were written in the last decade that really explain to you the biochemistry of what happens with what we think is gluten-free. You know, people think, oh, I'll eat oats, or they think I'll eat brown rice, but these are all marketing misunderstandings, or I'll eat soy. That's a marketing misunderstanding that people treat like religion.
Let's talk a little bit about that because I forgot where I was, but this is where I was. I'm in the barber shop, and there's these women. I'm sitting waiting for my barber. He's running behind, and there's these women selling cupcakes and cookies, and I'm just ignoring them, reading my book, and then I see them come over to me. I'm like, oh man, I gotta deny them, and they're so enthusiastic. And I said, "Would you believe me if I told you I was on a liquid fast for 6 days?" She said, "Oh my gosh!" So we sat down, we're talking, we're engaged, but then she starts telling me, oh, I'm vegetarian. So I feel you, I see why you're doing it. But then she's telling me what she eats, and she's like how tofu is a big part of her diet. And it has served her in terms of the transition. You know how there's a lot of mock meat foods that are made with tofu. Now, she's not asking me, and I'm not looking to educate someone if they're not asking me about, we're just sharing a moment, but it was the most recent recall of like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people who engage with tofu or soy-based products. Would you speak about this, the propaganda, this going back to what you were saying, the marketing around such foods and how we've been misled? Because apparently we need re-education across the board.
Yes. I'll go all the way back to the beginning.
Take us back to the beginning.
In the 14th century, when the Chinese started to write about soy, they wrote about it because they identified it. This is a country with hundreds of thousands of people starving. They identified it as a soil cover, like something for farming, a crop to plant that would enrich the soil. They did not identify it as a food because it wasn't a food. It is not everything that grows is for everything. Even, rapeseed oil was used for heavy mechanics. It was never meant to ingest. In Europe, it was used for thousands of years to lubricate machinery. Only after World War II did soy and canola come into the idea of the food market. But I do want to mention that soy is one of the most manipulated foods on the planet, other than maybe corn, because it's a commodity. It's traded for money in the commodities market. So it has been used to improve crop yields. It has been used to sell off, to put it in everything. And it's in every salad dressing. It's in everything you buy under different labels that say vegetable instead of soy. And so it was touted after World War II to humanity as the new oil, because the trade routes that were interrupted during the war stopped us from being able to get coconut oil. They stopped the flow of what humanity had been eating. And there was a marketing opportunity with these other oils that these crops were never the soybean crop, and the canola crops were not profitable crops before World War II. They were used very meticulously for manufacturing with canola, and with soy, it was used as ground cover. During the war in China, missionaries, I think it was Seventh-day Adventist missionaries in particular, came to China, and they were running orphanages, and they didn't have women who had milk, and there were no baby formulas, because at that time, people would nurse babies. There wasn't really formulas on the market. And the Seventh-day Adventists developed a formula using soy to give the babies in the orphanages, where the people of that country did not eat that as food. They used it as a condiment and raised it to a level of being edible by fermentation. So it became a ferment, a condiment as a ferment. And that's still how it's used, where you'll see soy sauce, or you'll see something fermented on every plate, where people are eating from the indigenous culture from which it originally came. But it was never considered like, we want to shape it into a turkey. We want to take tofu and we want to make it into chicken, or we want to make it into a burger. That's not from the place it originated. That's not how, and they were starving and they didn't see it that way. So there is that. I mean, there's more. I could talk more. I could talk more about quinoa and how that happened as well. I happen to have written a book about this.
Right, so I'm keeping my thoughts in check when we speak about the mock foods.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to bring forth, that before we go to some of these comments, because we got a lot of good questions and comments that are coming in. And just want to let you all know we see you, we hear you. We're going to get to those. I want to cover one last idea
Yes.
because there's a lot of ideas that I'd like to cover, but time is flying. I'd like to speak about, since we're talking about food, the idea of abstaining from food, specifically things like intermittent fasting, liquid fasting, how this helps the body transmit more light, the idea of allowing the body to take a break for recovery, the different processes that occur when we take a little break. Because again, our education around food is we've been taught we have to eat 3 times a day. And some people have been taught I need to snack every hour on the hour, where it doesn't allow the body, it's overload for the body. It doesn't allow the body to have a break. And so, and then even eating late at night before you go to bed, and then what happens then. So would you speak about the idea of, again, fasting, abstaining, liquid cleanses, what happens to our bodies when we just take a break from eating?
So we have been overfed to our greatest detriment. If we look at the animal kingdom or look at other aspects of nature, we see the laws and principles of creation in play, where we see that there are creatures who have to forage and get their food, and some of them are eating leaves all day when they can find leaves, and some of them are chasing down an antelope and eating once or twice a week, and each thing to its appropriate level. With humans, we are kind of being taught that we should have breakfast and we should have a Lebanese, and at 11 o'clock we have
11's, that's the first one. Who's that for 11's? Count me in for 11's.
Then we have lunch. And then after lunch, then, we have high tea at 4 o'clock, and then we have dinner, and then we sit in front of the television and eat something dry and salty, and drink beer or soda.
It's that yeast buildup in the gut.
And then we die. Then we die long before we need to die. So what happens with the body is that many things, depending on what they are, and you can easily find out these things by looking at the internet under food combining, like how long does it take for something to digest. You eat a chicken sausage for breakfast, it might take 4 hours for that to digest. You're using 60% of your body energy to digest that thing during the time where you might be at work or school, where you need your brain, but all the blood has rushed out of your brain into your stomach for your digestion. So that's one layer. And then if you eat 11's, then you're eating, again, maybe another form of food that needs a different time to digest. So there is an issue with eating combinations of things that have different times of digestion, because one may digest completely and the other one not. So there is this idea we're not living in that experience. The animals generally in nature will eat just the antelope. They're going to eat just the antelope, or they're going to eat just the leaves. Yeah. They're not having salad with the. They're not having a salad with the antelope.
It's a body can do all these multiple things at one time.
So there's several things to know, and I won't go into too much of it, but the idea that we never stop digesting wears out our stomachs. So most of us, by the time we're 35, our hydrochloric acid is not working. Now we're eating, the food is going through us, but we're not able to pull out the nutrients, and we're not assimilating the nutrients. So now we start taking vitamins. And so when we take vitamins, most of us have parasites, and the parasites eat the vitamins and they get really strong. They get really ferociously strong and very hungry, and they want like more. Can I have more cookies? I'm stronger now. I want more cookies. How about some cupcakes? How about go to the barbershop and get that cake? How about go get a soda and drink 17 teaspoons of sugar? Because the parasites are now calling for it, because we've never really stopped digesting. One of the ways I used to describe it was, just consider consider yourself, if you eat cereal in the morning, consider that you've got a pot cooking on the stove at 98.8 degrees. Let's say that pot is you. Then you get up in the morning, you put some milk and cereal in it. It's cooking away. It's cooking away. It's 11 o'clock. Then you go have a donut or a snack or a cup of coffee, and you got milk, cereal, donut, coffee. It's cooking away. It's cooking away. Lunch comes, and then you have a hot dog and some French fries, and it's cooking, and it's all in the same pot, and it's pretty nasty in there. And then, when you need something after school or after work, you go get a candy bar and you put that chocolate in there with that cereal and that milk and that hot dog and those French fries. Are you getting the picture? It's a big gooey mess. And every time you eat dough and water, you make glue. The same thing that you would make if you were making paper mache, when you would take flour and water and build a sculpture. That when you eat a donut or a piece of bread, you got flour turning it with water, turning into glue, which now is lining all of the crevices and the places in your body. And then if you want to put some sugar in on top of that, maybe some food coloring, some red pop, or maybe you want to do a beer in there, a little intoxicant. Are you getting the picture of what's happening?
What can people expect when they stop all of this excessive layering of food? By the way, we're going to have to break in a moment. This is going to have to be brief because I just saw a dancing lady.
Oh my goodness, it's already
time
done.
has been fun.
Oh.
So before we go to the break, could you expound a little bit what takes place when a person gives their body a break from all of this?
The body then begins to recover and return to its own intelligence. And one of the easiest way to do it is intermittent fasting. We highly recommend intermittent fasting. Eat your last meal, go to sleep, get up, skip the next meal, drink water, have something nourishing, and then wait to eat the next meal. Balance yourself to one meal a day, but drink nutrient-rich things in between. Start with one meal a day. Then eventually you can move yourself into fasting for 2 days or 3 days quite easily. But it begins with getting down to one meal a day. You get down to one meal a day, your skin will start looking different. Your hair will start responding different. Your organs will not be overloaded. The body will begin to rectify. And this is true no matter where you are in your diet. Wherever you are, it's okay. And you won't die if you don't have all the meals that you think you're supposed to have. You can easily blend up some fruit or eat something light that has nutrients in it, but not eat a full meal. And then start to rectify what the one meal a day you're having is. And then move yourself into more. It's going to be necessary for us to eat less, to be better, to be healthier. And I think that's a good way to start. Start with one meal a day and work through which meal do you skip. Skip that evening meal. Wake up in the morning, then don't eat again until lunch. And that's a nice window of opportunity there. And then keep doing it until it will take about 3 weeks for the body to adjust. The body won't ask for food if you don't deliver it. If you don't give it 3 meals a day, it's not going to ask for it. But it takes time for that to happen.
Time to adapt.
Yes.
This all makes total sense, and gives people perspective of, again, the propaganda, the marketing that has really kept us entrained into lower states of consciousness.
Yes.
Where we think it's normal, but it's not. We've been conditioned to be something other than human, really less than human. I was thinking about when you were speaking about the animals and how they'll eat once a day or once every other few days. And you often speak about how the animals stay beautiful, their coats are clean, and they're outside. They are not between four walls. And you see a deer and you're like, oh my gosh, so majestic. Out there eating grass. We saw the deer eating roses the other day. Be like the deer, be like the animals. But before we break, just a little heads up. We got a 40-second commercial break with Aluca, AlucaInc.com. These are our sponsors. regarding wealth asset protection. So we're going to go to a quick commercial break. We'll be right back, and then we're going to go to the chat, answer some of these comments and questions, and then we'll begin to wrap up. Thank you all for joining us.
If you're a conscious investor looking to make a difference, you need to hear about Aluca Gold. Because doing good and doing well isn't just a dream, it's our promise. Let's face it, everyone wants their money to work harder. But what if your gold investment could do double duty? Aluca Gold is more than just precious metal. We're committed to ethical sourcing and total transparency so you know exactly where your gold comes from, and who it helps. Every ounce you invest helps support real miners and their communities with humanitarian projects and fair wages. That's not just good business, it's good for the world. You get solid, physical gold, plus the pride of knowing your investment brings hope and opportunity to families who need it most. So why settle for ordinary returns when you can spark extraordinary change? Invest with purpose. Invest with Aluca Gold. Do good, do well, and let your gold investment shine brighter than ever.
Yes. There we go. All right. So again, alucainc.com. Visit them. Shout out to Alex, Russ, who we see. We appreciate you. And for anyone who's looking for asset protection, visit them. They are our ally sponsoring us in this podcast live stream. So we're about to wrap up here, but we're getting to these comments, and we're still going strong. There's a number of people who are still watching us in the live stream. Again, as usual, sending honor, respect, gratitude, integrity, action, discipline to you all. We appreciate you all for joining us and being part of this conversation. So I'm gonna take it back a little bit to some of those earlier, just general comments, and we'll go to some of the questions. We got Shirley in the UK, in the Cashew Sun family. And thanks for heads up on the audio. She says she loves this topic. Food is really poignant aspect of her healing at the moment. I think many of us could say the same, especially due to the conditions of the food right now and being confronted with how we navigate going about acquiring food. Cassidy, and I thought this was a really good comment, says, this is not talked about enough. So many of the foods you're mentioning have wrecked me. I've had to do so many elimination diets to see what is okay to eat. I thought I was allergic to food. I feel like you had a number of clients who were like that, right?
Yes.
So they couldn't eat anything.
But when people get a nutritional consultation, I can identify what those things are, although they have very uncomfortable tests you can take also. Yes.
Yes. So Mario had two questions here. I thought these were pretty good. Mario says, what kind of milk should you drink? If soy milk is not good, is oat milk good?
No, it's not.
I'll say no, final answer.
If you have the need to have milk, the milk that I add, and we don't necessarily drink glasses of milk, but there are several camel farms in America now because camel milk is magical and it really helps with any brain deficiencies. It helps with autism. It helps with Alzheimer's. It helps with any degenerative things. If you have people in your family who have neurological issues, or if you just want to prevent it, I carry packs of camel milk with me when I travel, and I have it in little individual servings, but you can get it from, I think it's called Desert Farms.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get it at a reasonable price, shipped here from camels. And it doesn't taste gamey like goat milk. It tastes just like cow milk. I have an autistic granddaughter who we put it in her smoothie every morning, and it has made an amazing difference. And she is very pleasant and goes to school, and now she's in middle school, and she's doing very well. But normally, before the camel milk, she would not, she wouldn't initiate a conversation, but she would answer. So you'd say, how are you? She said, I'm doing good. But now she gets in the car after school and she says, I'm going to clean up my room. I'm going to do my homework, and then I'm going to go outside and play. That's camel milk. What it does is it helps, it has enough magic to help the synapses jump. And the reason we know this, there are many recent papers on it, but we know because people have been going into the desert for thousands of years with a camel and coming back weighing more. They left with, they'd have some dates, they'd have a camel, they'd have some supplies. They run out of supplies a month in, they have camel milk on the way back and their dates, and they're good. And so we have enough human evidence, enough experiences to know. And in recent times, it has become very clear that it really helps with the electricity, the power of the magnetism, that having it in your body will help the synapses jump. So anyone who has issues, and if you don't have issues, I'm taking it so that that won't exist as a alternate, as a problem. So we recommend Camel Milk. It's not too expensive. You can get it on Amazon or on the websites of the ones that you see there. You can also get it actually liquid, so sent to you frozen, which I have done as well, if you want to use it in recipes or you want to drink it. And it really does taste just like regular milk, although it doesn't have the same level of abuse that the cows have. It doesn't have the same level of suffering that the cows go through. It doesn't have the same level of vaccinations and issues that our commercial animals go through here. So there is that.
I'd like to build on this. Well, two things. One, I did a little bit of research on the camel's milk because I drank a bit of it a while back, and I saw that the chemical composition of the camel's milk is actually, it mirrors mother's milk. So it differs from cow milk or any other milk in terms of providing that same nutritional content that you would get from breastfeeding, which I thought was very fascinating, that the camel is the closest that you can find in terms of milk like that. And then number two, for the last several months, I've been making my own nut and seed milk, where they charge like $8, $9 for a small bottle of this in the store, and get a half a cup of cashews or something, and several dates, some water, put it in a blender, just a blender, some sea salt, and next thing you know, you got milk. And it's, again, a very simple alternative as well, where we're able to again, do for self at some extent. You still gonna have to get the seeds and the nuts, but at least making it and knowing what's in it without all these artificial fillers, it's something that's brought me and those around me so much joy to engage in.
And I will sign off on that. I had a cup of homemade cashew milk with fresh walnuts and cashews made into a milk, added with chocolate powder with no sweetener and sweetened with dates last night. And the chocolate activates stem cells. The cashews are a high quality protein. The walnuts actually look like the brain, so they're adding a brain quality. And I would definitely encourage people to pursue that, but not from the store so much. But, you know, where it's got, where things, it's been heated, it's been things in it to make it not break down. But I do want to mention that that's not true for all nuts. Almonds are irradiated. There's a law. The almonds in America are grown in California, and the law in California is that every almond must be irradiated. So you don't really want to make a milk from that. And you don't really want to buy an almond milk that's been irradiated. It's already been, it's already gone through a nuclear experience. Do you really need to bring a nuclear experience into your breakfast? Do you really need to do that? So this is, I have that information. This is information that is available and you can look up, but it's not in the lexicon in a way where you would automatically know this. The pumpkin seeds, the walnuts, the cashews are clean. And then we do what we can within the environment we have. Nothing is 100% pure on this planet, but we get as close as we can.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important things. Strive to do greater in whatever areas you find yourself in, because I do see that some people get neurotic. I can't eat anything. I can't even breathe the air. Calm down. Be calm, breathe. Please breathe. And do what you can based off of what's available, and just continue to stretch. A couple of more comments or questions, and we'll wrap up here because we're just over time. So But it looks like a lot of people are really digging this. If you all want us to talk more about food and things like that, LaOta's an expert on this. She has a very extensive history of healing not only herself, her family, other families of sicknesses, diseases. Since over the decade of working with the Sun, I have seen many people be healed through both frequency and food. So if you all want to hear some more stuff like this, just drop us something in the chat. Let us know. Send us an email. We're also open to expanding on some of our topics. We're going to be talking about some really cool things, interesting things as well. And so another comment here. Shelley is saying, is there any kind of bread that is okay for the body?
Yes, sprouted bread. Bread that is sprouted is a different composition, and because it's not pulverized. The issue is the flour being pulverized. Think of it this way, that if you were pounded into a billion bits, could you pull yourself back together to be the nutrient? So we look at wheat and we say, this is the nutrient composition of wheat, but we're looking at it as the whole idea. Again, this is what we talked about earlier. Once you pound it into a billion different fractions, can the body put it back together in such a way that now you meet that nutritional identity? You cannot. So when a bread is sprouted, when you take sprouts and you make a bread from it, I just found a really wonderful recipe on the internet for avocado bread that was an egg and an avocado and you can make a bun out of it. You want to work with things that are not manipulated into 10 and 15 steps, where there's only a few steps and then you can get something familiar. Of course, you should have things that taste amazing. I had a sprouted taco today that was it was an Ezekiel wrap that was a sprouted wrap. I just warmed it up and put in it the things I wanted to have. But the chemical composition is different than you taking flour, a dead product, and then killing it again a billion times by pulverizing it, then mixing it, and then taking all the steps. When you sprout something and you make it, it's really very few steps. And there are recipes all over the internet these days. So yes, have bread, but have sprouted bread. And you may have to find a particular person who's doing it. There should be, this is an industry where people should be able to make a lot of money. If people knew that don't eat Wonder Bread, don't wonder about the bread. Eat the sprouted bread. You know, everything's right. It's right there in the name. You gotta wonder about it. Wonder what this is going to do to me. I wonder where this is from. I wonder why it's white. wonder.
This is really good knowledge for I think simple things that are just right in front of us that we ever see. But that sprouted bread tip, I think that's a really good gem. And as you often speak about, like the chemical composition of what we're eating, it makes a difference.
Yes.
Like those little nuances. We got another one. Stacy says, if down to only one meal, should it be raw or cooked regarding detoxing?
So first, it should not be for children. It should be for adults that are over 16 who are finished growing, and maybe even older, depending on the growth and the way the child is growing. But it is important that you identify your toxic load. So if you know that you have been eating in a way where there's lots of sugar and dairy and things that are not compatible to your genetics or your melanation, there are things that are not compatible to certain levels of brown and black people, certain melanation, then you may be too toxic to go raw immediately. We recommend that the meal would be 80% raw and 20% 80% raw and 20% cooked, because you need the cooking to slow down the detox depending on your toxic load, which is every individual's toxic load is different. If you detox too quickly, or if you eat too much fruit, or if you do too much juice, you may look like you have pneumonia and end up in the hospital, and they will not be able to identify what you have. they will think you have pneumonia because your eyes will be watering, you will have dandruff, the earwax will be coming out of your ears. All the different orifices will be trying to dump the toxins. So fruit is cleaning, vegetables are building. And so you would have a salad, maybe you'd have 5 or 4 ounces of fruit, you'd have a salad, and then you'd have something cooked like beans or greens, or even a piece of lean meat that's not something like buffalo or lamb or goat, something that has not been mistreated, something that's not commercially driven through a system of mistreatment. So that's what I would recommend, that if you're having one meal, you would have a certain portion of it raw and then another portion of it cooked. When people have come to me for nutritional guidance and been enthusiasts, if they decide, I say, well, have 20% cooked and 80%. Well, if you said 80%, 200% must be better. And they end up in trouble because the toxic load has to be considered. The condition that you actually are in, not the one that you imagine yourself in. You imagine yourself that, you eat healthy, but in point of fact, have you eaten fast food in recent years? Have you done any of those kinds of things? Because that has to come out. So I hope that's helpful.
That brings up a whole nother conversation that one could go into in terms of recognizing the context of our current state of condition, food-wise or biology-wise, because I see an overlay with this when it comes to loop patterns that a person has, and sometimes we'll think we're out of it, but we've only been working in the opposite direction for so long, not enough to really re-imprint the field. So it's interesting to see that shows up with food as well, and of course it makes sense because it's a law as opposed to the law, and it correlates. So again, really solid response. Let's go one last one, and I think this is just a short yes or no from Julianne. She says, "Is camel milk good for hormone balance?"
Yes, it's camel milk is, if you are, it really depends on how you're using it. Are you drinking milk like a child who's growing up? Are you having a glass of milk and like as a meal replacement? Or are you adding a little something to your tea or coffee? So if you are an adult and you just like the taste of milk and you want to use it for therapeutic benefits, I would say use a few tablespoons in something like a smoothie in the morning, or make yourself maybe a cashew milk and add a little bit to it. But then over time, you will receive the benefit because of its power in the system. But it really depends on what you're doing, and are you doing it out of desire for the taste? Are you doing it because you need it? Because as an adult, you don't need milk like that. But if you're doing it for your brain, a small amount is enough every day over time. So it really just depends on what is your idea? How are you using it? Are you using it for brain health? Or are you using it because you grew up having a nice cold glass of milk and you'd like to have that? And that's because that then fills you up and becomes a meal. It has calories, it counts.
This is interesting. One of the things that's coming to mind is people having the capacity to discern and speak to the bodies to ask how much of a thing is best.
Yes.
Because I've had moments where I love the taste of cashew milk. And this type of milk, homemade, it gives me protein. It helps me stay full, so to say, in terms of my size. But I also have had moments where I'll get the prompted, don't get a whole cup or do just a splash, don't do so much. And I can see where sometimes we as humans, especially on the healthy track, we think that if it's positive, I'm going to take a lot of it. I'm going to do all the chlorella or whatever the thing is.
Or eat all the raw food and then be sick.
Yeah, and again, not knowing the context of what's happening with our biology and chemical composition. So this is really good, LaOta. I'd like to wrap up now because
Okay.
we're over time, but this has been solid. I just want to share with you some of the thoughts from the people in the chat. Once again, out of respect and gratitude to everybody who's joining. We got people who are like, yes, more food talk from Cassidy.
Okay.
We got people saying, yeah, LaOta healed herself from cancer. That's LaOta of the Sun. And more gratitude from everyone who brought questions. And we have people saying this would make a great class. As Deborah, I think if this is the Deborah that I know of who's already taking classes, she's like, here's more money. I want you, I want more classes of the sun. So for those, I understand LaOta has done retreats and on not just eating, but magical foods. We all used to go to Hawaii. Well, I went once, but there were several trips to Hawaii where she would work with a group
For 5 days.
Yeah, because I mean, how long you go? We don't go to Hawaii for like 2-3 days. You're there for a hot minute in a beautiful location, but you're learning about food in ways that you're not going to find on the internet. And so LaOta works with the consciousness of food, and she teaches these things. So I have noticed. I've been looking at the signs and patterns, and food has been rising back up in her experience. So it's likely something will pop up at some point. You got any thoughts on this, LaOta?
Yes, I would love to plan a food event. And I personally would like to talk to people about speaking not only to their bodies and finding out what their bodies want, but speaking directly to the food. And if I may, I know we're wrapping up. May I tell a short story?
Yes, look, usually I'm like, let's keep going, and I'm being mindful. So
All right.
please go.
At the last magical food class that we had in Molokai in Hawaii, which I was having them every 4 months, retreats for a week or 5 days. One of the things we were teaching was how to talk directly to the foods. And one of the, I think the person's on the line now, one of the people in the class, we had gone shopping and talked to the food in the store. And I was saying, okay, I'll ask the food what its experience like and is it appropriate for us to eat it. And the person was talking to some frozen blueberries. And the blueberries said, the people who grew us appropriately. They did not harm us in any way. But they didn't tell us that we were going to be frozen. So we got traumatized because we didn't know they were going to throw us into a freezer. So then the blueberries said it would be best if we would clear them before we ate them so we didn't get the trauma. So I mean, I'm going to leave you with that.
So even vegetables can be negatively imprinted, fruits, berries in this case. So this brings up so many thoughts and ideas. But I will say this again: the comments are lighting up. Deborah's like, yeah, it's me. and Lakesh, Deborah. Cecilia's like, a food retreat is a great idea with a little smiley face. It's like, yeah. So if you're interested, let us know if you'd be interested in joining the retreat. There might be something in the works. We're looking for people.
It'll be a few months out, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you want it, we'll start planning it. And it may be, end of the year or new year.
Yeah, because I think we're due for something, some type of event. But at the same time, there's a lot of great feedback from people. Even Shelley's like, group cleanse and group fast. We would love the support. I think that's a cool idea, even though it may be a little unique and nuanced for each person, but collective movement. So, we'll put a pin in these things and consider them.
Work towards your 1 meal a day, because if you come with me, we're only going to give you 1 meal a day.
Cassidy says, not traumatized blueberries. Yes. True story. The person's on, or at least they were in live stream with us. They commented earlier, but again, this is such an expansive talk. And again, this is all primarily focused on eating for the light body, eating to cultivate light, because again, what we have been sold in terms of the propaganda and the marketing about certain foods, even things that we thought were healthy, they don't help with sustaining our light, with getting the technology to function appropriately. So again, for those who are interested, join us in the light body movement. We're activating the light, but clearly there are other aspects to this other than just let me pull in the light. We got to get the technology, put the physical body up to speed as well to sustain it.
Leave everyone with one image. As I said earlier, we know that if you put flour and water together, you make paste, that's paper mache. Can you imagine the light trying to get through the paste, the glue, the paper mache that you're still currently eating, the flour and the water?
So when people are putting in the light, they're like, oh, I feel it coming through, but it's like the light's trying to move. That's all that paper mache. That's that thick slab or whatever you have that hasn't digested. So it is a reality where it's important to eat or have a food lifestyle
Yes.
that supports this
Light.
process of development. Yeah, literally light. Eat light. eat the light. Like that too. That's a whole nother level. We don't got time to go into that right now. That's speaking my language right now. But any final thoughts before we go, LaOta?
I thank everyone, and I hope that you all develop an appetite for purification, for the purification that will bring forth light, life, and beauty. Let us all shine with the light
Yes.
of life. Thank you. In Cashew Veritas.
I'll see you next
Honor, respect, and gratitude.